welcome to UBC TV. My name is JETHRO KASAIGI. This is the front bench. You can be part of this conversation using the hashtag UBC front bench, but also sending in your messages on our WhatsApp number 0709 602592. I'll be sampling some of your comments and questions at a later time. Like I introduced to you earlier, I do have the Ministry of Energy and Rural Development. I do have the Honorable Minister for the Ministry, Minister Honorable Dr. Canon Ruth Nankabira. Once again, you're most welcome. Happy Women's Month, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Jethro, and happy Women's Month to you all and all dear viewers. Maybe
on a light note, Honorable, you have very many titles. Honorable, Minister, Doctor, Canon, all those are your titles.
Mrs.
Mrs. Oh, sorry about that. Thanks for the correction. I don't know which one you will prefer for me to use.
Canon.
Canon. By the way, congratulations. Why were you given this title, by the way?
The story is long.
Okay.
Because I've been working and church leaders have been watching. And so time came when I was called. And I said, yes, I will continue serving God.
Okay.
It is something that I've been doing throughout my career, my duties as a political leader. I have been working along with church and offering service to the communities, and this is what I think Christianity is all about.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Honorable, let me start with you. You had a very, very big ministry. And without you, without this ministry, nothing can really be successful, because we are talking matters energy, matters minerals, matters oil, matters electricity. All these things are under your docket. Kindly give us a picture, an overview of energy and mineral sector. What are some of the achievements and how they are contributing to the country's economic growth?
Well, thank you very much. And like you have stated, my docket is the engine of development. Every other sector relies on my sector, on my docket. Electricity is very critical in health, in science and technology, innovation, in road construction, in education, in everything. So electricity, in home affairs, in entertainment industry, in security, electricity is very critical. Petroleum, oil and gas, and all extractives, including minerals, very critical in income generation. And all sectors need money. And so the sector is overseeing 3 critical programs out of the 18 programs of the National Development Plan 3.
Okay.
Sustainable energy development, sustainable petroleum resources development, and sustainable exploitation and development of mineral resources in the country. And that was National Development Plan 3. But for the National Development Plan 4, which is focused towards the ATMs, agriculture, tourism, mineral development, and science and technology, my 3 programs were condensed into 2. One of energy development and the extractives industry development. And the NRM manifesto, which we are obliged to implement, is focusing on industrialization, is focusing on creating programs that will see our 4th principle, namely socioeconomic transformation, achieved. So my target, or the target of my sector, is to make sure that we contribute towards reducing the cost of production, cost of doing business in the country. Because if the cost of doing business is very high, then competitiveness is going to be compromised. And what reduces the cost of business, of doing business in Uganda, is majorly contributed by reliable, affordable source of power. So my sector is focusing on that, to make sure that we create the resources that we need in order for us to achieve the socio-economic transformation that is enshrined in the 4 principles of NRM. So that is where we are focusing, and we are making sure that the industrial zones where we find industrial parks, which industrial parks are supposed to offer jobs for people, technology transfer for people, are supposed to be powered by reliable and sustainable power, by affordable power. So accessibility is very critical. That's why we expand our national grid. As I speak now, the entire country is covered by the national grid.
The entire country?
The entire country. Because we were remaining with 2 regions to say, Western Nile and Kigezi region. You remember last year, August, on the 2nd of August, the president was in Western Nile to switch on Western Nile.
Yes.
So the entire Western Nile is now connected. And recently, last month, if not this month, last month, we were in Kigezi when we completed Mirama, Kigezi substation.
Yeah.
Kigezi substation is very critical for the region, but also for our trade with Rwanda. So the entire country is now connected to the national grid. And so we can talk with confidence that we can have the industries in those regions powered by enough power. Karamoja was connected when we commissioned the Moroto substation. That was commissioned. So we are remaining with a few areas to enhance distribution, the distribution leg, so that we can do the last mile connection.
Okay.
And with power reliability, we have organized the resources to make sure that we inject in more transformers to stabilize power. We need more transformers. You know, every day that passes, people are connecting power to their homes.
True.
But we are not following that with the relevant infrastructure, substations, I mean transformers, and also the kind of wires that we have in the area. But every day, every January or end of year, you see trucks ferrying items where people are shifting from one place to another. They have constructed their beautiful homes, they need power. You move to a place and you see maize mills, you see bakery, you see consumption of power being increased every day. So we have a plan to make sure that we inject in more transformers, even where we have distribution. To make it reliable and to make it enough, we have to make sure that we put more transformers. And this is under the Electricity Access Scale-Up Project, which is a World Bank project of 638 million. But we shall also make sure that we do encourage renewables, we do encourage more generation, and so that we have enough power. So generally speaking, that's what we are planning, having realized that we are the engine of development, that every sector needs us.
Honorable, before I cross to the Permanent Secretary, you've talked about the national grid, and you've talked about West Nile and Kigezi region, probably as the few regions that are left to be connected to this. A Ugandan out there wants to understand what you mean by the connection of this national grid.
Oh, power is generated from point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
This power is collected into different substations, put on omutimbagano. You know, there is that infrastructure, the network that transports electrons to different parts. For example, Karuma Power, remember we commissioned the Karuma recently.
Okay.
That power will need a transmission line where power is pulled onto that transmission line. Those metallic pylons that you see, the majestic pylons that you see in the bushes, Those are the roads or infrastructure for transporting electricity from the generation point to another point where it is stabilized for onward distribution. The transmission line cannot connect your power to your house or your industry. It has to be connected to a distribution network which can step it down into your premise. Okay. So that is the national grid. Minus that, you can have mini grids, but the problem with mini grids, sometimes power is not stable, but also power is more expensive because mini grids are very expensive to run because they comprise of basically one type of power. Whereas for the national grid, you will find power from all sources of generation, even solar, nuclear, geothermal. You just put it in the pool and then you transmit it. Okay. So the importance of a national grid cannot be overemphasized. All right. It means industries will get this power, which is controlled and regulated, you know, by the regulator, same cost, okay? So the mini grids have problems, but at least to be in darkness, you rather have this mini grid like the people of Kalangala and some islands where the national grid is on the way. We are going to construct a sea cable to Buvuma, and I think that's the only district there in Buganda region which is not yet connected to the national grid. Kalangala is connected through a sea cable. All right. Yes. Okay.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. Permanent Secretary, Engineer Irene Batebe. Let's talk about oil and gas production postponement. This has raised a lot of concerns among the public. I don't know, how does government respond to these concerns, and what steps are being taken to ensure the sector remains on track?
The oil and gas sector of the country has really progressed, and I should say we are still on track towards achieving first oil come next year. Now, we have to understand the journey we've been on as a country, having discovered crude oil, or what we call commercial discoveries, in 2006. Number one, Uganda is a landlocked, or what we say land-linked country, and we don't have access to the coast, but it comes with other advantages like a bigger market, among others. So we have to ensure that we put in place infrastructure that will support the development of this oil, and that speaks to our commercialization plan, where we decided that in addition to developing an oil refinery that will process this oil to be able to give us products as a country, that is fuel such as petrol, diesel, etc., we'll also develop the East Africa crude oil pipeline. So this infrastructure needs planning. We go through a process. We must do technical designs. We must acquire land where this infrastructure will be set up. We must resettle affected persons from where the infrastructure will pass, among others. So infrastructure development is a key aspect of the oil and gas sector. And we've gone through that journey of ensuring that all portions of land that is required has been acquired. But critically, we had to ensure that the oil and gas sector is supported by a robust legal and regulatory framework. When we discovered commercial crude oil reserves, immediately we put in place our national oil and gas policy. That was in 2008, and we followed that with updating our legal framework, our laws, the upstream law to regulate the petroleum exploration, that is the search for petroleum, then development, then production of this petroleum, what we call the upstream. We also put a law to support petroleum processing, oil refining, bulk storage and transportation, covering the crude oil pipeline, refined products pipeline in the country. That also took some time because you have to consult and ensure you have a robust legal and regulatory framework in place. And today, that has supported the journey that we are on to ensure that the projects are meeting the requirements on the environmental side, even withstanding the pressures that came with the climate activists trying to counter these projects were able to surmount those because of the nature of legal framework we had put in place. But critically, this industry needs initially about $20 billion to unlock the upstream where we'll be getting the oil, but also the oil refinery and the other associated infrastructure. Now, of course, that calls for partnerships. We must enter partnerships with companies like Total Energies that we are partnering with, but also CNOOC, the China National Offshore Oil Corporation, and other companies. So in this arrangement, we require them to also bring on board financing, as we also look for our portion of financing, and that financing process also takes a bit of time. So aggregated, we are still on track, having put all these aspects in place. Financing largely covered for our initial projects, the infrastructure, land largely acquired, ready to go, and when you look at the legal framework, intact to support the compliance of the sector. So those are critical ingredients that you must ensure you get right. Otherwise, you can end up in, we've seen countries that entered into production very early without understanding their oil fields properly and ended up either producing less, having invested in critical infrastructure, and leaving white elephants because they hadn't understood or studied the fields well. And that is an effort we've done, and we are already seeing it as we start our drilling program, that the fields were studied well, our appraisal program was done well, and the fields are responding to the targets and even more of what we had foreseen to be produced from these fields.
Before I sample some of these questions, what happens to the promise that you made to Ugandans that this year probably we shall have our first oil production?
And good enough, we are still on track, whereas yes, we did commit to this year due to the same aspects I've highlighted, financing. We had the interference of the Ukraine-Russian war. All of these went to cause a few delays on the financing side, but with a slippage of a few months, come 2026, we should be on track for our first oil.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Let me sample some of these questions kindly before I take a small commercial break. Good evening. This one has not put any name. I have a concern. Here in Mukono, especially Chisoga villages, there are no poles signed for rural electrification in the area. How can you be of help? This has been directed to Engineer Irene. Okay, thank you so much. I didn't get your name. Good evening. This is Prince Rasul Idris. He says, good evening, dear fellow citizen. I want to ask the Honorable Minister about the national grid. Why in West Nile do we still have unreliable power, and why is the cost of tariff, why is it high, and yet we are paying much tax to this government? Again, to Honorable Minister of Minerals, if a country like Uganda is having an oil, why should Uganda borrow from foreign countries? Honorable Minister, I think let me start with you with these questions before we take the break.
Thank you very much. Like I said, that the presence of the national grid alone without planning for distribution is not guarantee that you have power in your village. But it has to start from somewhere. So having taken the national grid to West Nile, we are now planning for distribution, okay? And distribution requires critical infrastructure like, or material like, or equipment like transformers. In the area where this gentleman stays,
yes,
probably it could be having those small poles that cannot, or wires that cannot sustain the demand currently, because consumption is in West Nile now is moving high, very, very high. The speed does not match our speed of investment into the distribution network. I'm just calling for a little bit of patience.
Okay. A
little bit of patience.
All right.
But also on the tariff, I'll have to find out, because we had Wanareco. This is a distribution company, a local distribution company, which still has a concession running. If they are still operating in some areas in Western Nile, we will have to wait for the end of this concession with Wanareco, and then we switch on onto the new arrangement. So again, we are in the process of harmonizing and synchronizing these systems. An agreement is an agreement. You can't just break it without following what you put in on paper in that agreement.
All right, thank you so much. Permanent Secretary, you had that question of the gentleman in Chisoga.
Aligning with the earlier program that the Honorable Minister spoke to, the Electricity Access Scale-Up Project, we do have a plan to connect up to 1 million or to make 1 million connections by the end of the program. It's a 5-year program having started in 2023. Now, for those that are within the 2 to 3 kilometers radius from the grid, under that program we will serve them in terms of extending the national grid, and we continue to scope out some of these areas. We'll specifically pick Kisoga and see what plans we have for that specific area. But in addition, we are doing a single or no pole where we connect for those who are close to the electricity pole for free. It's a free connections policy that we've been implementing with UMEME, but even as they wind up, the Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited will be taking on that responsibility, and they have a target of making 400,000 connections in a year from the time they start. Okay. In 1st of April. So we are confident those cases like the Kisoga case will be among those that we will tackle as we continue rolling out this program and other rural electrification programs that we have.
All right, thank you so much. PS, together with the Honorable Minister Canon, actually she told me to use the Canon for this show only. After we shall go back to the other titles. UBC front bench continues. Allow me to take a small commercial break. I'll be returning with most of your questions and messages. Don't go away.
This is
well of a lifetime. Rare, beautiful, precious. Embrace of a
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archive stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
When you want to relax your body and refresh your mind, Welcome to Hotel La Confidential, Aroa's premier destination for luxury and comfort. The only hotel in Aroa City offering a serene atmosphere, breathtaking scenery. Come and discover our exclusive wellness club with packages that include a fully equipped gym, a rejuvenating sauna, steam bath, and a great sky blue swimming pool. For events, our state-of-art conference halls and versatile event spaces are perfect for hosting shows, wedding receptions, birthdays, and more. Come and enjoy our cinema hall and unisex saloon, all designed to meet your entertainment and grooming needs. Bring your family and let your kids splash around in our beautiful kids water park. We are located on Aroa Pakwachi Highway in the heart of Aroa City. Don't wait. Visit us on www.hotellaconfidential.com or call us on 0761 688 181.
Looking for instant excitement? The Uganda National Lottery Spin for Cash game is now available online. Wherever you are, you can join the excitement for just 500, 1,000 and 2,000 Uganda shillings. Don't miss out. Register now on www.nationallottery.go.ug for a chance to win your share of 2 billion instantly. What are you waiting for? Play Spin for Cash now, anytime, anywhere. Ituba is the proud operator of the Uganda National Lottery.
Uganda National Lottery. Dream, play, win.
Participants must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. The Uganda National Lottery is operated by Ituba Uganda and regulated by the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board.
This is the front bench.
Indeed, this is it, the front bench. Thank you so much for keeping it UBC TV. We are still with the Ministry of Energy and Rural Development. I do have with me Honorable Dr. Canon Ruth Nankabira, together with the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Engineer Irene Batebe, answering your issues. But remember, we are talking issues minerals, oil and gas, issues electricity. Honorable Minister, let's talk about the Isimba hydroelectric power plant. This has faced some scrutiny and also allegations of shoddy construction of work. Kindly look into that camera and tell Ugandans the current state of the dam.
Well, thank you very much. Isimba generates 183 megawatts. That is its installed capacity. And we have, let me first talk about the essence of defect liability period for any big project, because we always think that there could be issues. So before you pay off the contractor, before you clear, there is that period of 2 years where you use your engineers to confirm that everything has been done properly. For Isimba, we have been at it for a long time. And it is us that discovered some defects on Isimba. And we have been at it with the contractor. At one time, we even involved the ambassador. We've been having meetings, virtual meetings with the headquarters in China. And recently, we were joined by the Committee of Parliament on Natural Resources. And I want to thank them very much, because they joined us in the battle which we've been having to make sure that the spillway that has been having issues is worked on. And as I speak now, in China, they are manufacturing the replacement of the spillway, and our technical team was supposed to travel in January to China to go and inspect before shipment is done. So we are doing everything it takes to make sure that the plant stands test of time, because it's a big plant, 183 megawatts. We can't just let go. So we are engaging as a ministry on behalf of government. And these issues happen. The defect liability period is very critical. So the contractors are aware, and the actions by the Committee of Parliament of Natural Resources were welcome, and we encourage them, and we pledge total cooperation with any effort. The President himself has met with the team 3 times at State House, including ourselves, and is aware of the challenges of Isimba, and we pray that the contractor is going to make good of the rectification of the issues that have been identified.
Are there some penalties put on these constructors? Because I do understand government is injecting in a lot of money.
I think there is money that they put which might be at risk. I don't know whether to call that a penalty, but they are bonds that they put. If you have not delivered, then that money, you forego that money. Yes.
All right, Permanent Secretary, let's talk about corruption. What are you doing as a ministry to fight this vice? There is a newspaper that published that probably there are cases or allegations of your ministry of employing staff without following the right channels. How true is this?
Thank you, JETHRO. Now, like every government ministry, department and agency, the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development does not tolerate corruption. And we've put mechanisms in place in different ways. First of all, we've understood how corruption manifests. For you to fight it, you must know how it manifests. And from there, we've devised mechanisms of ensuring we tackle corruption and align with the government's policy on no corruption. One, we have endeavored as much as possible to digitize our systems to improve on transparency and accountability, including whole of government systems that come to support us in terms of the public finance management. On the procurement side, we've been supported by the Ministry of Finance to deploy the electronic government procurement system, EGP. And this limits the interface between the bidders and the ministry staff, and that way we are able to run more less prone procurements. We have also, on the financing side, we are now processing all our payments on the Integrated Financial Management System, IFMIS, where anyone within the government, including the corruption bodies, anti-corruption bodies, are able to view the transactions that we make. That is all in an effort to improve on accountability, but also transparency. But when it comes to ministry systems, we've ensured that our licensing processes are streamlined so that there is clarity on how we license and how we engage our investors. On the mining side, we deploy a cadastre system. It is an online system where you apply to access a license for mining. All the different mining licenses one can access on this cadastre system without having to walk into our offices. So we are endeavoring as much as possible to digitize, and we continue, and we'll endeavor to ensure that as much as possible we limit that interface to enable transparency and accountability. But the other thing that we do is keep talking about corruption, be it with our staff when we are inducting them so that they understand how corruption manifests, and including cultural issues, the things we've taken for granted. Somebody saying thank you, yes, for a job you have done.
Many take it as
yes, so
as
there are
bravery.
those subtle things that we are keen to create awareness among staff so that they are alive to how corruption manifests. And then we align with the IGG where it comes to whistleblowing. Should anyone hear of any case of corruption, through the mechanism of whistleblowing to the IGG, but also to the different offices, one can whistleblow. And we've endeavored to form partnerships. We partnered last year with the Chandler Institute of Governance of Singapore to just come in and do some training of our senior management to benchmark with other countries and see the practices that other countries are doing so that we are able together to really continue fighting this vice. So really the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development remains a zero tolerance for corruption workplace.
This reminds me of the time when the IGG, Betty Olive Kamia, came to your ministry and launched a surprise probe on allegations of certain ministry officials who are probably engaging in cases of corruption. Were there some discoveries done on that day? Absolutely
none. So the IGG does spot checks. She will work in any work environment and she will do her normal spot checks. In case she picks any corruption cases, she will bring them to light and they are treated as so. In that case, there was none recorded. And on the recruitment that you talk about, we recruit through the Public Service Commission. And we are aligned with them to ensure that we continue recruiting on merit into the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development.
All right, Honorable Minister, I do understand that the cohesion between UMEME and the government of Uganda is expiring. And from 1st April next month, I do understand that UEDCL will be picking it up from there. How ready is government to take on this mantle? Because some Ugandans think UMEME has been doing a good job. So where is the challenge?
Thank you very much. UMEME's relationship with government of Uganda was supposed to last for 20 years. This is what is on paper.
Okay.
Whether you like it or not, it's 20 years. And 20 years, I think, elapsed on the 28th of February. We are now in these months which were put in the concession as transition months, so that by 1st of April, we have paid off UMEME and that a successor company has taken off. So this should not be a surprise to Ugandans. It shouldn't be a surprise to UMEME staff. The concession was known to last for 20 years and time has come. So Cabinet took a decision some 3 years ago not to renew UMEME concession because government has prepared its own companies to take over. We have government's generation companies that have been taking over naturally retired concessions, generation concessions, like Nalubale Chira, Namave. They've been taken over by Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited. Likewise, UMEME as a distribution company is going to go, and government has prepared its own company, Uganda Electricity Distribution Company, which will be at liberty to look for a joint venture partner after a transition period to do business together. And the obligations in the concession is to make sure that the investment that UMEME has been doing onto the government system is paid for. And that's why you hear buy out, buy out. What are we buying? UMEME has been investing, maybe transformers, but the investment has been regulated by the Electricity Regulatory Authority. And so the Auditor General was brought on board to do the audit so that we know how much is the buyout. The audit was done and government has prepared itself to pay off UMEME. And come 1st of April, UEDCL, which already got a license to operate now in the UMEME territory, because you have to get a license from the regulator, and the regulator has to assess you to find out whether you'll be able to operate the network. So UEDCL has been assessed, and the ministry has been helping them to make sure that we see a transition which will not have many challenges. We yearned for a seamless transition, but you can't say that the transition will be watertight. Moving from one system to another might come with challenges, and I'd like to call upon our customers really to bear with us in case there is that. Lastly on that, are the staff, former staff of UMEME. we've been talking to them. I have been assuring them as the overseer of the sector that we shall take them on, because we are not squeezing the territory. We are not withdrawing. We have to operate the territory as it has been.
Does this also include the investors who were shareholders within the company?
The shareholders have their agreements within the company. What is important is that you, UMEME, you've been working for government. Have you been paid? If you were paid, now shareholders will hold their AGM and share out. They will be able to get their money. The concern should be, has government paid you? The concern to government is also to make sure that the staff, these are Ugandans, are taken on, and we gave them the priority. And the recruitment exercise has been going on. However, we should also know that the decision not to renew UMEME concession was to make sure that we reduce duplication and we reduce the cost of power. So that comes with some challenges to some staff who may not be taken on. About 191 staff may not be taken on, because we have to make sure that we are efficient. We are more efficient, and we are not extravagant, because it comes with a cost, which cost is always seen through the tariff. So we are mandated to supply power at an affordable cost. So Ugandans should not be excited about this. It is something that has come when we are aware. Every year that passed, we were counting. Come 2025 March, UMEME will go. We are now in March 2025. So it's nothing new that we are talking about.
There is a question here from Omaju Bosco from Kayunga district. He says, I would like to ask the guests why traffic on electricity is still high and we are the ones generating it for ourselves, but I hear the exported one is cheaper in those neighboring countries. Why? Secondly, the government adopted rural electrification, but in his area, the poles have stood for 5 years without seeing any wire connection. Therefore, he likes to inquire about rural electrification. That is Maju Bosco from Kayunga. Awana Silva Mutukula says, if you compare the services of UMEME in its jurisdiction and that of UEDCL services areas, you find UMEME is a more customer service centered as opposed to UEDCL, which is more of a charity service. That is why you hear Ugandans doubting UEDCL services. All right. Okay. Why is it that people of West Nile are always kept behind? You went to Nyagak until now we cannot have proper power. This is Good Day J. That is the name he uses on WhatsApp. And maybe the last one, I do have, hello, I'm Hudson from Leng Kochi Cell, Central Ward, Nebi Municipality. How comes it is only Leng Konji without any single electricity pole among all places in Nebi Municipality? I think those are some of the questions that I can put out. Honorable Minister, you can answer a few.
Thank you very much.
To the PS.
Thank you very much. Meju?
Yes, Meju.
Meju
Bosco.
Thank you very much. You're talking about the tariff still being high, yet we generate our power. Let me use this opportunity to sensitize our viewers and listeners that the cost of power is contributed to basically from two things. The money that you put in power generation, that contributes 60% of the cost of power. Since we don't use our own money to generate this power, we borrow at a cost. We borrow at an interest rate. That's why we still have some high cost, although it is reducing. Every year we announce a reduction. We reduce. This year in January, we reduced by 5.2%.
Okay.
That is an equivalent of 155 billion Ugandan shillings, which we would have collected. But because of the reduction, we did not collect that money. So the fact that we borrow money to invest in infrastructure development, to invest in power generation, we still have this tariff high. Power from Karuma generation plant is cheaper because we contributed 15% public funds, whereas power from Bujagali is high because we borrowed money 100%. All that power is put in the kitty, and the average is what you see as in tariff. Power from Chiranarubale is the cheapest because we borrowed the money for Chiranarubale and we finished the payment. Now we are enjoying a 1.9 US cents, I think 1.9 US cents per unit is the cheapest. So bear with us, power will continue going down. Why do we sell power to our neighbors at a cheaper price? We sell power which we are not using. Instead of leaving it stay there, okay, we decide to trade it. And so they give us, we negotiate, and that is the cost that we sell. If we don't, then that power will be paid for, it's paid for its generation. It is not utilized because we've not yet worked on the distribution network everywhere. It's work in progress. So that power will stay, but it is paid for. So instead of missing out on some of that money, we decide to sell it.
Okay.
That is the rationale. And we get money and expand the distribution network. Then some people think that UMEME was a better distributor than UEDCL. I don't know the yardstick that they are using. Sorry for you, UMEME's concession has ended. We have to build the capacity for Ugandans. UEDCL is made of Ugandans. It is a government company. So we really need to up our game and use our own companies. Give UEDCL a chance to begin. Don't fear the unknown. Then Western Nile, I think this person who has raised the issue of Western Nile is still living in the past.
Things have changed.
How do you talk about Nyagak 3? This Nyagak 3, which is soon going to be commissioned with only 6.5 megawatts. And you are leaving power from the national grid, you know, from Karuma to Oluyo substation, 220 kVA, then Nebi substation, Arua substation. You can't even manage to consume all that power. Your consumption has just gone on to 14 megawatts. It used to be 4, 5, 7. Now I think it's 14, less than 20 megawatts. We have put very expensive infrastructure. We are demanding for consumption from Western Nile as we plan for more distribution network. So, gentlemen from Western Nile, please stop living in the past. West Nile is not neglected. It is not. We benched in Western Nile. We even commissioned a 20 megawatt solar plant at Madiokolo. Madiokolo is in Western Nile. We are planning to begin on the wind energy generation, still in Western Nile. So don't live in the past. We are in Western Nile, and we are aware of the fact that you are at the border with DRC, and we are targeting market into DRC.
Before I move to the PS, one last question to you, Honorable Minister. From X, Joseph Mojulizi, concerned that Muli One Village, Muhira Parish, Nansororo Sub-County, Kalido District, lacks electricity. When will this village be connected to the national grid? Mujulizi Joseph.
Okay. I also wanted to clarify on the poles which are standing with no wires. Again, let me clarify that there were some projects which were abandoned by contractors when we suffered COVID-19. And you can't just switch, contracts. Otherwise, you will be called in a committee of accountability to explain. You have to really satisfy yourself that the contractor has failed and has been declared bankrupt. So there are those poles which are still standing. But we said we shall use the World Bank project to make sure that we work on some of the poles that are standing with wires, no transformer. Sometimes the transformer is there, but it was vandalized. Sometimes wires were there, but they were vandalized. We are aware of those projects. Bear with us.
Okay.
Now, the question of connecting to villages. I think we have to appreciate the government's rural electrification policy. We've been moving step by step. First, it was the government policy to make sure that all the district headquarters are connected. Why? Because those are local governments. We are now remaining with Obonji and Buvuma districts only in the whole country. Then we were supposed to go to sub-counties. Why? Because those are lower local governments where work is done. That's where you find the health center 3. That's where you find the seed school probably. That's where you find the services, government service being given to the people. And we are remaining with a few sub-counties where we don't have connection at the headquarters. It is a fact, but work is in progress. Then from the sub-counties, we are supposed to go to load centers in the parishes where we have load centers, where we have value addition centers, where we have secondary schools, where we have to facilitate PDM. So to move to home, house to house, village to village is yet to be achieved. We have to move in a systematic manner. Otherwise, where do you begin from and where do you end? And we need more money to be injected in this docket to be able to purchase equipment. We need transformers, we need wires, we need money for contractors, we need poles. But we are moving. We have not covered the entire country as in connecting to sub-counties. So if your village is in that sub-county which is yet to be connected, then there's no way you can be having power when the sub-county does not have.
Okay.
Yes.
Engineer, our time is fast spent. But as we summarize in your last words, I do understand your budget has about 3 trillion shillings for the next financial year, but the Ministry of Finance has so far allocated about 1.7 trillion. How are you willing to work within this budget, given the fact that you still have a number of things that you really have to put together as a ministry? In your last words.
Thank you. We continue to work with the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to enable them understand the priorities within the sector. Good enough, we are well aligned with them. They have prioritized, for example, the mining and oil and gas sector and electricity to support the ATMs that the Minister mentioned in her opening remarks. So with that budget deficit, we'll continue to engage, but what we've done with the allocated budget so far is ensure that we identify the impactful areas that will speak to the public, those that are public looking, support within the limitations of the funding to continue extending electricity within the budget allocated, support to ensure that we quantify our mineral resource, continue to understand how much mineral wealth we have so that we can promote and attract investment in order to drive the value addition agenda, add value and benefit further as a government or as a country. We've ensured that we also prioritize all the aspects that will get us to first oil in terms of ensuring the sector, petroleum, is well legislated and regulated, but also that we continue with our exploration program, especially covering the Lake Choga Basin and Kadam Moroto, but also part of the Hoima Basin, so that as we deploy the oil refinery and the ECOP, we continue to bring on board additional crude oil reserves. Is the funding enough? Not at all, but with what we've been allocated, we will endeavor as much as possible to ensure that it's impactful to the people of Uganda and will lead to the social economic transformation that the Honorable Minister emphasized in her opening remarks.
Honorable Minister, as we summarize, looking ahead 3 to 5 years, what milestones or achievements can Uganda celebrate in terms of energy and mineral resource development?
Thank you very much. Briefly, let me also add to the PS's explanation.
All right.
The sector was opened up to private investment. We have a law that introduced independent power transmitters, independent power generators. We hope that with that, we can see you, JETHRO, constructing a transmission line, and then we pay you through the tariff.
Okay.
So that saves the Ministry of Finance. So we have to be wise, saves them the money. Because you will purchase power, and so we will be able to pay back. We'll be able to pay back that independent company.
As a ministry?
Yes, as a ministry.
Okay.
Because we are supplying a resource which is yearned for. You pay for this, for the electrons. Yeah.
All right.
Then looking at 3, 4, 5 years, we are targeting at making sure that we exploit our sources of energy. We emphasize the generation mix. We have to make sure that we exploit the nuclear potential to be able to have enough energy in the kitty. Our nuclear potential is 24,000 megawatts, but we want to begin by planning for 1,000 megawatts. We have to exploit solar. We have to emphasize renewable energy. That is on the side of electricity. On the side of oil and gas, the PS has explained, we are emphasizing that because we are seeing our economic development, you know, increasing in 10-folds. This is our target. Then on the mineral side, we are emphasizing value addition. The act that we have that guides us is good to make sure that no unprocessed mineral leaves the country. So what we expect to see are more factories that are adding value to our mineral resources, for our minerals. We have so far given out 4 big large-scale mining licenses, and we now have the Uganda National Mining Company in place. We are going to see in the next 2-3 years a very active Uganda National Mining Company, which is going to represent government by holding the 15% state participation in all those big mining licenses. We have already put through Kasese, redevelopment of Kasese, Kilembe mines, not Kasese. Kilembe mines, we are about to go on the ground for Kilembe mines, and the mineral production sharing agreement was signed. And so the Uganda National Mining Company is going to be active, and we have put money for them as startup money for the Uganda National Mining Company.
Okay.
Politically, we are going to be bashed as a ministry because energy is a political issue, and we are in campaigns. So we are prepared. We know that every candidate will be asking for alkaline, a transformer, and we are not able to deliver. So we are here You will bash us, but we will keep the smile all the same, because it is not our fault. Yeah. We are ready to serve you, and I pray for coordination from especially the project affected people, so that we pull through this project very quickly without spending more time, so that we are able to serve you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister Dr. Canon Ruth Nankabira, for sparing time to come and speak to the nation about what is happening within your ministry, together with the Permanent Secretary, Engineer Irene Abatebe. Now, what is left for us as Ugandans is to wait to see how best all what is being talked about be put in place. And all we wait to see also is to see how best we can energize our nation, of course, to have a brighter tomorrow. From me and the entire team, I am JETHRO. KASAIGI, it's a good night.
Oh, Uganda, may God uphold thee. We lay our future in thy hand. United, free for liberty, together we'll all